Hey, how's everyone doing? Hope you had a great weekend, a restful, peaceful weekend. We're going to be going over a few things today. We'll revisit our interview with Michael Pento, Dave Kranzler, take a look at a few things that they had to say. One story from Gerald Celente's Trends Journal, and then we'll be kind of remembering 9/11, maybe where you were, what you were doing that day. Just if you want, just go ahead and share your experiences. And then we're going to take a look at El Salvador making Bitcoin legal tender. It won't be an in depth look at it, but it's just more or less, because this is just happening now, we'll just take a look at it and see, what the good and the bad of it may be. So I don't think this live stream will be very long or too long, but as long as we have some good conversation going, that's the main thing. So again, glad you all are here, and I'll be with you folks shortly. Carrie Ellen Wilder, how you doing? Pablo Pina, aloha. Patrick Bateman, greetings and salutations, and we'll get going in a bit. And yeah, if you can, just let me know how the audio is coming in, if it's loud enough for you. So we'll go ahead and start shortly. See you guys soon. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira, and this is our live stream, our bi-weekly live stream. Still trying to get used to that myself. It seems like when we start up the live stream, you gotta kind of get the gears moving again. But glad you all are here. Appreciate you being here. And again, aloha to you all. Lillian Winston, again, how you doing? Harold B, Jack P, thanks for letting me know, Jack P. James Richter, Jay Delaney, how you doing? So yeah, okay. As mentioned at the top, we're going to be looking at a few things that Michael Pento had to say in a recent interview. Dave Kranzler will be looking at one article from Gerald Celente, and kind of just remembering 9/11 in a personal way, maybe what you were doing, where you were at the time when it happened, and then we'll be taking a kind of a brief look at El Salvador and their recent movement to making Bitcoin legal tender. So we'll start up with those things. And again, appreciate you guys being here. Seymour Rivers, I think you are still our ebook champion. How you doing? DC Precise, how you doing? So glad you guys could be here again, and I hope your weekend went well. And if you are new, please do go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Uh, Click on the bell to be notified on updates and give us that thumbs up. We really do appreciate those thumbs up. And you can find us on social media. Silverbullion.com.sg is our website. This is where we go ahead and we do sell and buy, trade things like gold and silver, platinum, palladium, and we do store them. We do have our own vault. It's not a third party vault. It's our own vault. So when you need to deal with vaulting matters, you are talking to us direct. It's not going through a third party person. And more than anything, we do specialize in wealth protection and systemic wealth protection. And as always, I think a lot of us know what's going on out there, and being protected in some ways, knowing how to use stores of value, it's going to be important. And as I always say, options. We are going to need options. So go ahead and give us a look. Shoot us an email, sales@silverbullion.com.sg, and we'll see what we can do for you. Facebook. Silver Bullion SG is our handle. It's where you can find us on Facebook. Silver Bullion PL is where you can find us on Twitter. Silver Bullion SG. Instagram. Silver Bullion SG. You can find us there. Audio versions, bit.ly, bit.ly/SBTV iTunes or SBTV Spotify for just audio versions. And Crisis Tracker. If you have the Telegram app, whether it's desktop or for your mobile phone, go ahead, download it, and or search anyway for Crisis Tracker. So go ahead and search for Crisis Tracker, and that'll be our group where we go ahead and we post things as it pertains to gold, silver, finance, economics, things like that. As I always say, we kind of sift through the weeds and get some of the more reliable, better info out there to you. So go ahead and join that group again. Telegram, search Crisis Tracker, one word. So again, hello and aloha to you all. Appreciate you being here. And okay, we'll get this thing going. Our upcoming guest this week, who you are going to see, so make sure you subscribe here, is going to be Dr. Ron Paul. Now, being that we are at the 20th year of September 11th, I do intend to ask Dr. Paul some questions regarding 9/11, his experience and the reaction to Congress. What was the mood in Congress back then, whether the reasons were right or wrong? The U.S. 20 years ago was a very, very united country. Again, whether the reasons were right or wrong, it was a very united country, much different than today. Within a generation, it has unraveled. So I hope to get Dr. Paul's opinions on some of these things. Again, he will be our upcoming guest. So make sure you hit that bell and subscribe and be notified when we release that interview. Moving forward again, ebook. Thank you. Giveaway. I know this is kind of tough because now, with the bi-week or the bi-monthly format, you really are going to have to watch the interviews to kind of guess what the answer to the question is going to be. This week, we're going to be giving away The Only Plane in the Sky by Garrett M. Graff. And it's an oral history of 9/11. So it's pretty good. It takes into a lot of different accounts of what went on. In The Only Plane in the Sky, Garrett Graff tells the story of the day as it was lived in the words of those who lived it, drawing on never before published transcripts, declassified documents, original interviews, and oral histories from nearly 500 government officials, first responders, witnesses, survivors, friends, and family and members. Family members, excuse me. He paints the most vivid and human portrait of the September 11th attacks yet. And so if you like that book, House Rules, download the Kindle app from your phone or tablet's app store. It is free. Go ahead and do that. Be one of the first five to answer correctly in this live stream before the timer runs out. You're going to have about a minute and a half. US winners, you'll be given a link to download the ebook. Non-US winners, you can go ahead and contact Amazon and ask them for if you could exchange the ebook, let's say, for other things like a gift card. Reason being, Amazon Kindle, they don't give ebooks outside of the US as gifts. And you're going to provide us with an email during this live stream. Again, important, no messages in the email, in your comment, just go ahead and give us your email. What's going to happen is if you are a winner, my colleague Vincent, hey Vincent, haven't seen you in a couple weeks here, but Vincent will go ahead and he will mute your comment so that way only he will see it and no one else. And again, you can remain anonymous and confidential and all those good things there. Okay, so the question is going to come from, I believe, the Michael Pento. I believe it's a Michael Pento interview, but let me go ahead and take a look at some of the comments here. Um, let's see. I've been hearing this quite a lot. Had to look for broadcasts on YouTube, had to go to SBTV channel, wasn't in my recommendations or recent uploads. Very odd. This has been it's been happening. It's been happening quite a bit, but we'll try and figure something out. But thanks for the feedback. It's important to us to kind of gauge really what's going on here and there, trying to understand the metrics of it. Also, appreciate that. Thanks for that feedback. Um, okay, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll post that question. I do believe it came from the Michael Pento interview. Hope you had a chance to watch it. It's pretty good. Had fun with Michael. So the question: the Fed believes they can manipulate markets and eliminate recessions and eliminate any two words in stocks or in the stock market. So the Fed believes they can manipulate the markets and eliminate recessions and eliminate any blank blank in stocks or in the stock market. It's two words, but if you're close enough, we'll go ahead and we'll give it to you because we know all of you watched the interview, so no worries. If you're close enough, we'll go ahead and give it. We'll give it out as a prize to you. So the Fed believes they can manipulate markets, eliminate recessions, and any blank in the stock market. Blank blank in the stock markets. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. Take a guess. And again, that book is out there. That ebook. So good luck. Let's take a shot. All right, so let's see. Bear markets. Okay, Greg, Gaia. First time I've seen your name here. Welcome aboard. And if you are new here, go ahead and type in new and where you're from, and we'll try and acknowledge you. Okay, bear markets. James Richter downturn. Seymour Rivers major drop. Silver Warrior major crashes. Harold B. Sudden downturns. Truth Monster private property. Mitch Alex major crashes. DC precise downturn. Oop, and that's it. And okay, let me straighten that out. The correct answer is downticks, and you guys were close enough. Close enough. The first five. Seymour Rivers. Okay, Seymour Rivers major drop. That's close enough. Downticks. Silver Warrior, market crashes. Again, close enough to downticks. Greg, Gaia, bear markets, close enough to downticks. We'll go ahead and take that. James Richter, downturns, close enough. And Harold B, sudden downturns, close enough. So you guys were the first five to go ahead and close enough, close enough. We'll go ahead and take that. So again, Seymour Rivers, Silver Warrior, Greg, Gaia, James Richter, and Harold B. You folks are gonna get those ebooks. We'll send them out to you. We'll try and get them out to you right after the live stream is over. So again, what'll happen is Vincent will mute your comments, and then I think he'll be sending you a message, and then you can go ahead and send your email to him, and we'll get those ebooks out. We'll try and get them out after the live stream. So congratulations to you all, and we got to we got a fact check here, right? We always have to fact check everything. So, did Michael Pento actually say that? Let's check our guest review here with Michael Pento.
I think the Fed has lost complete control of everything. They started with the hubris and arrogance to believe that they can manipulate markets and eliminate recessions and eliminate any downtick in stocks. That was the big mistake. And they started out with the Fed funds rate around 6%, at the turn of the century, year 2000. And now we're at zero, and we're stuck at zero. And I always remind people that we're at zero not because of COVID. We were on the way to zero in 2019. We lowered rates 3 times in 2019. So we were on our way back to zero anyway. The repo market was freezing up. Inflation was way below 2% the way they measure it, because they have these ideas that they can control everything, and they really have no control of much of anything except how much money they print. And now we're stuck here at 0% interest rates. We're stuck at $120 billion a month of QE. That's $1.44 trillion worth of what I call counterfeiting.
We're stuck. Well, we're stuck, guys. Has the Fed lost control? What do you think? What's their mandate? Well, their mandate is supposed to be maximum employment and price stability. But is it possible to achieve? And I kind of talked about this before, where, if your economy's, what'll happen is they have to throttle the economy back and forth to get that maximum employment. People get paid, they make money, they start spending money. You start getting a bit of inflation, and then you got to kind of throttle back because inflation, your price stability is going out the window. So you got to kind of throttle back. And what happens? You raise interest rates. What happens? Businesses have a tough time growing. They may have to lay people off. So you start losing employment. Your employment goes down. So you don't have your maximum employment anymore, but your prices get stable. To get stable, then what do? You go ahead and you try and get people back to work again. And it's just back and forth, back and forth. And I think it's getting clearer and clearer to see that this mandate is just it goes against itself. To have the two balance off and throttle back and forth, kind of impossible to do. But let's go ahead and take a look at your comments. Yes, let's see. James Richter, Seymour Rivers, Silver Warrior, Hal B, Greg Guy, congrats. Absolutely. Please put your email in chat if this is the first time you've won or your email has changed since you last won our quiz. Seymour Rivers, back on it again, my man. He's the ebook champ for sure. So anyway, what Candor Man is it possible? And I mean, really, it's a big question. Is their mandate possible? Pablo Pina, yes. Janet Yellen wants more money still. I mean, we even have that debt ceiling that's kind of gone quiet, right? I mean, I haven't heard much about it, but they still do need to take care of that debt ceiling issue. So we'll see how that also pans out as we move forward. So I'll play another clip from Michael Pento.
The United States of America is going to go from a 25% of GDP stimulus package to 2% of GDP in 2022. That's the important part here, Patrick. It's so important. Like I said, I'm a gold bug. I guess I'm a gold bug at heart. But you have to know when to own these things. You have to know what asset classes, what style factors, what sectors to own, and at what time, and at what weighting. So when do you want to own gold? When real interest rates are falling. So that's your perfect scenario when they're trying to cap the rise in nominal treasuries. There's a weight on top of yields, keeps them lower. At the same time, inflation is rising. So real yields tend to plummet. So that's when you want to overweight gold.
Okay, so you have to know what to own, when to own it. Do you agree with that? And I mean, I'm on the record for saying this. I've never bought an ounce of silver. I've never bought an ounce of gold purely as an investment. I've always bought it as an insurance. I've always bought it as an insurance. So, the investment side, I'm not too. I mean, it's nice to see the rise, of course, but I've always bought it as a type of insurance. So, I mean, people buy it for different reasons, but you have to know what to own and when to own it. Do you agree with that? And are you the type that trades gold and silver actively, or are you the type that you just accumulate? I'm the type that accumulates. So I'm curious to see how you folks would answer that question. Do you buy it to as an investment to hold? I mean, to trade, buy and sell, or are you buying it as a type of an insurance where you just plan to accumulate it? So I'm interested to see what you folks will say to their Harold B. Always own it. True, I agree with you. I agree with you there. Mitch Alex, think we'll see 120 gold silver ratio again? I personally hope not. I mean, I think once was enough. I do think it's time that the pendulum swings in the other direction. So I'm hoping we don't see it. Of course I can't say for sure, but um, I personally would like to see it get back down into the 60s. But until then, it is a time to be buying silver if you're on the fence whether to buy silver or gold. I personally would be buying silver, not financial advice or anything like that. Just saying what I would personally do. Good question there, Mitch. Let's see. Yes, let me put this out here. Vincent, your guest appearance has got to be coming soon, I imagine. Vincent, your guest appearance. All right. There you go. So I think we need more people to kind of get Vincent out there. Vincent's going to be mad at me later on. We love you, Vincent. We love you. Okay, Bar, hold it. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Lillian Winston, I plan to accumulate it for the long term. True. Okay, so I think a lot of us we kind of we do see it as something that we need for a type of an insurance and just to accumulate right now. So I think that's good. I think that's it's good that we do that. Another clip from Michael Pento.
The idea that the dollar is going to collapse against other fiat currencies, I always thought that was kind of ridiculous. The dollar's value is going to collapse against hard assets. It's collapsing against everything right now. It's collapsing against equities, bonds, real estate, pretty much everything except gold. Gold has been stuck in a malaise for a while because I guess, in my opinion, looking at the facts and data and history, the gold market is afraid of tapering because they think the gold market believes that long-term interest rates will skyrocket and the Fed is going to be able to raise rates and the economy is going to soar off into some kind of Shangri-La land. That's nonsense.
All right. When I was talking with Michael, he made that clear, and it was something that I didn't perhaps pay attention to much before when people would be talking about a dollar collapse. But in actuality, the way he sees it, the dollar will not collapse against other currencies. More likely, the dollar will collapse against hard assets. And I didn't really look at it that way. Just kind of put everything all together and just saw it as one way. But Michael, he separated it, and he made the point that against other fiat currencies, the dollar will not collapse, but against hard assets, it may. or it will. So, do you agree with that? Does it make sense to you? So when he said that, for me, like I say, it was a bit of an eye opener because I just kind of lumped it all together, but he separated it, and it made a bit of sense there. So I'm just kind of wondering how you folks feel about that as well. James Richter, my kids will receive my medals. It's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Okay, so obviously you're accumulating and holding. Okay, let's see what else is out there. Um, let's see. Jay Delaney, they can't raise interest rates. All they can do is print. That is true. We often hear, the Fed has a toolbox. They can do this, they can do that, they can do this. All they really can do is print money. The only tool they have is the printing press, and either they will speed it up or they will slow it down. That's really all the Fed can do. So that's a great point there, Jack P. Mike, Michael is a sharp cat. Very, very sharp guy. Enjoy the conversations with him, and I hope you enjoyed the conversations with him as well. Let's see, Frank Me. In that case, all fiat currencies will collapse at the same time. And that's the thing. I mean, we've heard a lot of guys say this before. We can even go back to James Rickards, how he was saying, currencies, they're all on like a parachute right now. They're all just going to kind of float to the bottom, sort of a slow, not necessarily race, but a slow fall to zero. If the dollar should fall, every currency will go with it. A lot of guys believe that. So, it's not just the dollar falling against any particular currency, but a lot of people do see it as it it will remain the strongest of the currencies, or the most sought after of the currencies, even if all currencies start to go down. So it's debatable for sure, but a lot of people do believe that. Let's see what else is out here. Okay, interesting. This time they plan to end the taper in a few months, March 2021, if I remember correctly. And that's coming from Vincent. Thanks for that, Vincent. That's a whole nother topic in itself. I mean, Fed was talking taper, then we have those terrible numbers, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, how are you going to taper with these that big miss that they had? So, are they just jawboning again? It's is it even possible? A lot of guys are saying no, it's not even possible. But hey, enough of me. Let's get to that interview with Dave Kranzler. Let's take a look at a few clips from Dave.
I mean, let's face it, these guys aren't idiots. When Powell says inflation's transitory and he talks about, CPI is what, 3 or 4%, he's lying, and he knows he's lying. And I think they know that if they don't try to somehow rein in the liquidity they're printing, to me it tells you they can't stop printing money. And part of the reason they can't stop printing money is they have to fund new Treasury issuance. I mean, the Treasury by the end of October is going to have close to a $3 trillion spending deficit this year, and they're going to have to finance that. So it means we've got a lot more new Treasury issuance coming. And foreign buyers, according to the last couple Treasury International Capital reports, which shows the funds flows between countries, from foreign countries into this country or out of this country, foreigners have been pulling away from funding our Treasuries, and they've been our main Treasury financier for 30 years. So to me, it's like if the Fed pulls back on printing money, there's going to be less money available to fund these Treasury auctions, and it's going to send the long end of the curve up. That'll also prick the asset bubbles. So it's a big mess, and it's going to be interesting to see how this thing unfolds over the next 6 months.
All right, Dave, nailing it there. I mean, forgive me for putting this question forth to you, but is Powell lying? I mean, has the Fed chair been truthful? Has he been truthful to us? And I ask this because, as Pento pointed out, as Michael Pento pointed out, we were already in trouble back in 2019. Remember that repo market spiked, right? And we were told by Powell that this is just corporate, kind of adjusting for their taxes and things like that. So, this is why this question's always come up. Is Powell lying? Has he always been lying to us? So, again, it's a question out there that we got to kind of figure out. Anyway, another clip from Dave Kranzler.
There's just so much cost inflation built into the entire global economy now from all the money printing. And just getting goods shipped over here has gotten insanely expensive. Even for the countries that export to the United States. And I don't think a strong dollar, I mean, it might offset the cost to us domestically somewhat. It may slow down the price rise, but it's not going to reverse it. I think we're stuck with increasing inflation. I think what the Fed would have to do is not just taper, but it would have to start removing a lot of the money that it's printed since March 2020 in order to cut the rate of growth in prices, the price inflation we're seeing. If you just read through a handful of second quarter corporate financial reports and go look at the MD&A, there's been several CEOs who have said that prices at the intermediate level are forcing them to pass on prices this quarter at the retail level. So everything that you go out and purchase, whether it's a necessity or a discretionary item, the price is going to be going up over the next 3 months.
All right, interesting. Cost inflation. Even should the US dollar get stronger and we have more purchasing power, which the Fed can do by tapering if they can, it won't stop inflation. Even if they do that, it won't stop inflation. The Fed cannot control, let's say, things like shipping rates. The Fed cannot control an increase in the speeding up of manufacturing of goods, let's say overseas. They can't speed up growing fruits. They can't speed up growing vegetables. None of those things, uh, nor speeding up how animals age in years to become a viable food source. So even if the Fed does taper to try to control inflation, they can't they can't do anything for these other things. And again, as mentioned, the only tool they have is that printing press. Speed it up, slow it down. You can't speed up manufacturing or animals aging to make them viable for food or plants growing. Can't speed it up. So really, what are they going to do there? You know, let's say they pull back and taper, but it's not going to stop it. So let's see. Carrie Ellen Wilder. Powell is only prevaricating. Prevaricating. Our word for the day. Prevaricating. Nice, nice. Let's see what else is out there. Um, let's see. Rod, increasing de-dollarization globally means the U.S. can no longer export its inflation to other countries. That's a true statement. Very, very true. Good point. One more clip from Dave Kranzler, Patrick Bateman. I see that clip. I mean, your comment there, Biden inflation. I think that word's getting pretty popular now. I see it popping up all over the place. But another clip from Dave Kranzler.
They're still printing money. They're still expanding the money supply. So, it's still going to foment more dollar devaluation and more inflation. I think they're backed into a corner right now because if they do start to taper, I think it's going to pop the stock bubble and pop the housing bubble. There's so much leverage out there predicated on the value of equities and the value of the housing stock. All kinds of leverage and derivatives. And so essentially these asset values out here in the stock market and in the housing market are kind of the foundation of the whole web of insane leverage and derivatives that's been piled into our system. And I think if the Fed were to taper, and especially if it were to start raising rates, I think we'd have a financial system collapse that would make 2008 look like a day at the beach.
All right, grab your inner tube. The Fed is backed into a corner. Too much bubbles, too much leverage. 2008 was a day at the beach compared to what lurks around the corner. What's your opinions on this? Want to see what your opinions are with this. Let me take a look at some of the comments again here. Um, let's see. Jay Delaney of Powell says anything is true, it's only transitory. Okay. If Powell says anything true, it's only transitory. We'll see how that works out. I mean, I've been seeing some news articles saying it may not look like it's transitory, but we'll see how these things work itself out. Okay, so I want to move over to Gerald Celente's Trends Journal. I think he just had one that he put out, so this is from the other week, but still very, very relevant. And I just want to take a look at one article, the metaverse from Gerald Celente's Trends Journal. Now, for owners of its Oculus Quest 2 virtual reality headsets, I don't know if any of you own it, Facebook has introduced Horizon Workrooms, a program that creates VR conference rooms where Oculus owners can meet, discuss, draft, and work together. Now, a person can enter the room with a cartoon avatar and take a seat at a virtual conference table, and interactive whiteboards are mounted on the VR walls, allow participants to write and make notes just as in a physical meeting. One way or another, I think we're going to live in a mixed reality future, said Facebook chief Mark Zuckerberg in this is a previous week in a workrooms meeting with reporters and Facebook staff. Now, workrooms in Facebook's or is Facebook's newest attempt to make good on its 2 billion 2014 purchase of Oculus virtual reality, an early entrant into the nascent VR and augmented reality market. The purchase set off a wave of VR hype. HTC and Sony promised mass marketing VR gear, and Microsoft created HoloLens spectacles that projected holograms, right? So you're even going to get projected holograms. However, little survived the initial spurt of interest. VR remains a plaything for people willing to part with thousands of dollars for a cumbersome headset that has to be yoked to a powerful gaming computer. Now, in 2017 earnings call, Zuckerberg admitted that turning Oculus into a commercial product with broad appeal is taking a bit longer than planned. In comments quoted by the New York Times, now VR companies have narrowed their focus. Magic Leap has devoted itself to business applications, while Microsoft is focused on military uses for the technology. Still, Oculus has kept hope alive, last year introducing a $299 version of Quest 2 that requires no computer and can be set up with relative ease. It incorporates SLAM tracking, a new method allowing a VR system to map an unfamiliar space in which it finds itself and to locate itself in that space. The improvements more than doubled Oculus's previous sales during the new version's first 3 months on the market. Analysts estimate Facebook does not release sales numbers. Last slide here. Workroom is part of Zuckerberg's version of a metaverse. Okay, metaverse. Start getting familiar with that word if you haven't heard it. Metaverse, in which people can interact through an array of technologies. And my hope is that in coming years, people think of Facebook not primarily as a social media company, but as a metaverse company providing a real sense of presence, Zuckerberg said at the Workrooms event, quoted by the New York Times. And that is an end to our guest revisit segment. We'll move on to our website, silverbullion.com.sg. But first, I just want to ask you guys, what's wrong with face to face anymore? I mean, it seems like, uh, you know, trying to talk to people now, it's difficult. Just have a meeting in person, just go out in person, um spend time with each other in person. Everything seems to be, Zoom and Facebook and all of these things, and now it's continually being pushed in that directions with this metaverse. I understand technology, it can be used in good ways. It is helpful, uh, but hey, I kind of like the old style, where we just all kind of got together. Let me take a look at a few comments here. VK Travelog, yes, I see that comment. James Richter, Meta Farce. Okay. Um, let's see. Um, yeah, maybe one day we'll get into this. I hear China's military is occupying the air base over in Afghanistan, and I think Vincent kind of replied with that, where Afghanistan is the land for empires to end. Oh yeah, that's a good quote there. That is a great quote there. Okay, so let's move on to our website, silverbullion.com.sg. Take a look at the silver price, gold price, how they're doing this morning in Asia. Let's see, U.S. dollar terms, silver 23.80 per ounce. It's up. Hang on, let me just refresh this here and make sure we're current. Yeah, okay, 23.80 US per ounce, so it's up just a little bit, some 2 cents. We were happily back in the $24 range last week, and then came the weekend, and then we saw it sputter and go down. Same with gold. Gold was happily in the $1,800 range, and it's back down 1788. So both metals relatively unchanged at just 2 cents and 70 cents. Nickel cleared 20,000, 20,000 per ton. Again, nickel is a metal that is used in electric vehicle batteries. It's a very important metal, and this is why we are seeing a lot of people moving over into nickel, or at least taking a look at nickel. Currently, it's 20,338 per ton. It has made a good move this year from where it was in the beginning. Cobalt cleared 50,000 per ton as well. So EV metals, we call these two EV metals, electric vehicle metals, nickel and cobalt. And we do have the physical metals. If you are interested in getting some price exposure to nickel, cobalt, go ahead and shoot us an email, sales at silverbullion.com.sg, and we can go ahead and talk to you about it. These two metals, especially nickel, do look to have a pretty bright future ahead. Investor Kit, this is free. Go ahead and click on it, and you can view the PDF on the website, or you can download it as well. Star Storage sign up. Go ahead and do sign up. As I always say, we do need options. We are going to have options. So go ahead and sign up. It is free. There are no maintenance fees to sign up for an account. Gold to silver ratio, we currently are at 75.1. So, yeah, I guess that's why we had that question, if we'll see that 120 range again, because it is look like it's starting to creep up higher in the 70s. If anything, it does mean that it is a good time to be buying silver if you're trying to decide between the two metals which to buy, gold and silver. Looking at the ratio, it is the time to be buying silver because of that ratio. Featured products: 1 kg gold bars, 1,000 ounce LBMA bars. Again, basic 1 ounce gold coins, 100-gram gold bars. All good stuff. Good stuff to have. Um, and I think a lot of you guys have seen that new U.S. Silver Eagle. So that has the Series 2. So that has a lot of people interested as well. The 1,000 ounce bars. This is probably the smallest spread you could buy for physical silver. So this is something a lot of people are interested in. Uh, in our vault, we have 225 bars from the shop. Three. Go ahead and bring a trolley or something to carry it. It is heavy, but if you would like to own it and store it in our vault in Singapore's jurisdiction, which a lot of people do find favorable, go ahead and click on it here, store in the vault. You will have to sign up as a user, or you have to have an account with us. The easiest account is if it is a personal account. We do have personal, joint accounts, trust accounts, joint account with a minor, business accounts, and retirement accounts. So if you're thinking of a precious metals IRA, go ahead and contact us for a retirement account. But with this one, again, the easiest is a personal account. All you would need really is your passport or some ID, and to go ahead and fill out the application form. Standard information, preferred currency, because what happens is if you sell it back to us, we will send the money to your bank account. So preferred currency, we would need to know standard info. And most important, go ahead and click on, not that guy. What's going on here? Go ahead and click on YouTube, SBTV. So that helps us out a lot too. Newsletters, we don't really spam people at all. Newsletters are very important, and they're always filled with good information. And this one here, I want to receive customer notifications via encrypted secure notification. I would take this myself also. Basically, it means we don't send anything in the bodies of email. We'll just send, you'll have an email saying you have a notification. Then you can go ahead, come to our website, and go ahead and log in and receive your email and see what it's about. So again, multiple accounts. Go ahead and contact us, and we'll see what we can do with you and get the right account for you. Looking at Twitter, let's see what's going on in Twitter. Let's see. When a divided country unites, we avoid catastrophes. Unfortunately, trying to play it on the web browser, for some reason it's not playing good. Basically, what happened is this was a college American football game, and there was this cat here, and he's stuck. He's trying to climb down, and he ended up falling. But there were students or spectators under that cat that were actually holding an American flag, and the cat landed on that flag, and he was safe. So we avoided a catastrophe there. Gerald Celente, here's a brief introduction from my interview on the Rich Dad Show for those who don't know about know about his background. So Gerald Celente was on the Robert Kiyosaki show, and I'll just play this real clip. It's just a minute because a lot of people don't know the background of Gerald. So Gerald went ahead and he gave a quick synopsis, I guess, of his background. So let me play this for you. It's just a minute or so.
Campaigns. Then they sent me. I worked on political campaigns in Yonkers, New York for the mayor, Angelo Martinelli. He became the longest running mayor of Yonkers. It's a city of like 300,000 people. And then I worked on district attorney and state senators' campaigns. And then they sent me up to Albany. And at 26, I was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate. That's the guy running the whole show. And I got to see firsthand what was going on. And it was the worst job I've ever had in my career, watching grown men grovel to suck their way up to the top without going into a lot of details. And I quit after 1 year, and nobody could believe I quit. And I went on to design and instruct American politics and campaign technology at St. John's University, how to run campaigns. And then I became the chief government affairs specialist for the chemical industry, a big trade association of the chemical industry. And I was killing environmental legislation at 28 years old, back in the 70s, staying at the Willard Hotel and putting my meetings on at the Hay Adams. And I started to grow up. I became the number 2 guy running the organization. At 30, I have pictures of me and Ronald Reagan. I picked him up at the Chicago Hilton 2 days before he announced he was running against Gerald Ford in 1976, put on a brunch with him and board of directors, stayed in touch with Mike Deaver for years. And I've been with presidents, prime ministers, and princes, so I got to see the other side. And again, that's when I became a political atheist. I look at things the way they are, not the way I want them to be.
All right. So Gerald Celente, a lot of guys don't really know the background of Gerald. They just think, he comes on and rants and raves, but he's seen it. Gerald has seen it. He's seen the other side. So he has a lot of meat with what he has to say. So Gerald, always appreciate Gerald there. Jim Bianco, according to Deutsche Bank, 85% of the US high yield market has a yield below the current rate of inflation. Okay, 85% of the U.S. high yield market has a yield below the current rate of inflation. So guys aren't making money right now. A lot of funds, they're not able to keep up with inflation. They actually may be starting to lose money, if not already. David Morgan from Future Money Trends, or says Future Money Trends is correct. Investment demand set a record in 2020, exceeding industrial demand. Okay, investment demand set a record in 2020, exceeding industrial demand. Silver's industrial demand is not the main driver of price. It's not the main driver of price. To truly understand why we believe that it could be more than dramatically appreciate from here, the most compelling data is the current level of investment demand, because both in 1980 and in 2011, 2 times silver really shot up. It was the retail investor that made the appreciation possible. The retail investor is alive and well today. So this may be another time again. I mean, I know this is something that we're all looking for, where silver will start to slingshot back up again. This is just a photo of Celente and Ron Paul, 2 great guys, 2 really, really great guys, at least in my opinion. Too much money. Is that a problem you have? It's not a problem I have. That's that's for sure. Too much money. This is interesting. 9/11 millionaires and mass corruption. Okay. U.S. government contracts in Afghanistan fueled a system of mass corruption that engulfed the country and eventually doomed its fragile. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at it here. Okay, so 9/11 millionaires and mass corruption, how American money break helped to break Afghanistan. In the 20 years since 9/11, I'm trying to remember 9/11, 20 years since then, the U.S. has spent more than $2 trillion waging war and nation building in Afghanistan. Okay, that money has helped create a tiny class of young, ultra-rich Afghans, many of whom made their fortunes as government contractors. So in this nation building in Afghanistan, while they were nation building, we saw a tiny class of young, ultra-rich Afghans also growing. Again, they made their fortunes as government contractors. So again, picking and choosing winners, aligning yourselves, creating your own allies to get your deeds done. I'm not going to say it any other way here. But over time, these contracts helped fuel a system of mass corruption that engulfed the country and eventually doomed its fragile economy. 290 million every day for 7,300 days. 290 million every day for 7,300 days. That's how much money America spent on 20 years of war and nation building in Afghanistan. And I can't even imagine that. 290 million for 7,300 days. Yet it took just 9 days for the Taliban to seize every provincial capital, dissolve the army, and overthrow the U.S.-backed government in August. When Taliban fighters seized Kabul without firing a single shot, President Joe Biden blamed Afghans for failing to defend their country. I'm not so sure about that. U.S. had 20 years in there, so you gotta take a good hard look at that. You actually had 20 years in there yourself, right? Or ourselves. Okay, so moving on. Let me take a look at a few other things on Twitter here. Let's see. Yes, it's too hot, lady. Gotta run for shelter. Gotta run for shade. Remember that song? Markets brace for hot consumer inflation report this week. Let's take a look at this as well. Markets brace for hot consumer inflation in the week ahead. If the CPI is hotter than expected, strategists say it could be a catalyst to move the Fed to consider tapering back its bond purchases sooner than later. Okay, no, that's interesting. And there's also a key retail sales report, which is expected to show a slowdown in spending, and that could trigger more worries about the twin threats of a slower economy while inflation picks up. So let's just take a quick peek at this here. 5 minutes. I don't think we'll play the whole 5 minutes, but let's just see what they have to say.
That's why properties have always been at the forefront of finding energy-saving opportunity. EcoStructure was key to collect and analyze data from multiple site locations.
Okay.
The producer price index for August up more than 8% from the previous year, its highest reading in at least a decade. So with yet another data point coming in higher than expected, is inflation really transitory? Joining me to discuss, maybe even to debate, Peter Bookvar is Chief Investment Officer at Bleakley Advisory Group, and Gina Sanchez is CEO at Chantico Global and Chief Market Strategist at Lido Advisors. Welcome to you both. Peter, I know you've been warning for some time that cost pressures will remain elevated. How elevated and for how long do you think?
Well, as we progress into 2022, they'll get less elevated. But the question is do we go back to where we were pre-COVID with consumer prices printing 1% to 2%, or do we have for a period of time a higher plateau? Is it 3% to 4% instead? And I'll argue that 3% to 4%, while it's slower than the rate we're seeing now, is a big problem because $15 trillion of negative yielding bonds is not a good setup with 3% inflation. A 1.3% 10-year yield is not a good setup with 3% inflation. An S&P 500 trading at 22 times earnings is not a good setup with 3% inflation.
So basically, Peter, you think that there's no – I'm almost starting to wonder if we had 3% inflation, if people would still hold treasuries. I don't even know if the yield hasn't – I know that flies in the face of, how finance is supposed to work, but – it seems obvious we're going to be at higher than 1.3%, but maybe not over a 10-year time frame.
Well, I want to believe that there is some free market left in the Treasury market, and that if the markets were disabused of the thought that this is just transitory, and if we were well into 2022 and inflation rates are still elevated, which I think will be the case, then the long end of the yield curve should adjust. But then the question is how much is the Fed going to fight that? And how much are they going to sort of distort the market and not let the market reflect where they think things should be priced?
Right. So, Gina, let me turn to you because I know that I don't want to say you're in the transitory camp, but I think you're less concerned about sort of persistent cost pressures as we head into 22 and beyond. So, and again, you're picking investments based on this view. So tell me about this. How much does it differ with what Peter's describing, if it does?
So one of the things when I talk to people about inflation and I ask them, what do you think the Fed means when they say transitory? Most people think that means that price levels go up and then they come back down. Something like what happened in 2008 with oil prices, and again in 2011 with oil prices, where prices went up, hit big numbers, 140, 110, and then came back down to low numbers. But actually, there's two other versions of transitory inflation that still actually meet with what's just been described. The first is that you have a one-time price shock, and then prices remain elevated, but don't really change much after that. So the change goes down, but your price levels are permanently higher. The second is that prices go up, and then they continue to go up just more slowly. Both of those things actually technically qualify as transitory inflation. And I would make arguments that wages, for example, right now we've actually had twice the level of retirements during the pandemic that happened in 2019. A lot of people have retired. And so you have a lot of companies looking to replace those. There was a lot of sort of wage compression that had been locked up in the wages that they were paying. And now they're having to go out into the open market, and all of those wages are adjusting upwards. But I would argue that that's probably not going to continue for many years. I would argue that that's probably a 1 to 2 year adjustment. Wages then start into their wage adjustment, their wage compression cycle, and we have low inflation again.
Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Interesting way to look at it. How transitory is defined. What do you think? I mean, the yield curve, the long end adjusting. That was something that Dave Kranzler also talked about, and there was a bit of a chuckle there. I apologize for that when he had mentioned that he hopes that there is some real free market left with treasuries. I think the Fed is absolutely the biggest, or getting to be the biggest buyer. So it's just a bit odd there. But let's go down a bit further. What do you think? Transitory or here to stay? Let's see, or out of control, I should say. Lynette Zhang, the Bank of International Settlements, is escalating the global move towards central bank digital currencies. This is programmable money, giving greater control to governments on their citizens. Will your wealth be caught in this trap? And she's absolutely right there. Central bank digital currencies, they are programmable money. I've even heard in some cases where people speculate that there even could be expiration dates on it, forcing you to spend. And so we just heard about rising wages. Octavio Costa, McDonald's is now paying up to $18 an hour. McDonald's, $18 an hour. I mean, I know for a lot of us in our time, this was a high school job that we went in just to get some money, get our feet wet with knowing what it is to work, get some responsibility. But for some, it ends up being a career, whether into a managerial position or things like that. But for entry level positions, I guess now it's paying $15.50 to $18 an hour. So I mean, what's that going to do? I mean, it's going to affect the price of food for one thing, and again, how many actual humans you may employ and opt to bring in automated machines to do the work instead. So that's pretty interesting there. Wall Street Silver. This will be the last one I'll take a look at. Without natural gas and diesel, it's impossible to mine the metals required in green technology. People in Congress are imbeciles. That's the word from Wall Street Silver. And it's basically because they're looking at going green and these things. But, the fact is, if you want to go green, like I just showed you, electric vehicle batteries, they do use nickel. So you do have to mine a bit for nickel. In almost anything, you do have to mine for the resources that are used to create the products we use. So going green doesn't mean, no more fossil fuels and things like that, because they still would be needed. So I think it's a point that we all need to remember and consider. So that was a look at Twitter. Hey, thanks for bearing with me, guys. I'm trying to get back into swing a bit also with the live stream. Carrie Ellen Wilder, transitory is Fed speak for permanent? Could be. I mean, as we just were told there, prices will rise, and if they stabilize and don't really rise much more, then that's inflation was transitory, because the inflation kind of stopped with the price stabilizing. So if you look at it that way and you break it down that way, hey, okay, well, maybe transitory, maybe that's his definition, but it's not a good definition for us. I mean, we still are going to have to pay higher prices. What else is out there? Tweety Bird, that gives a whole new meaning to Big Mac. Yeah, absolutely. Jay Delaney, McDonald's is not food. Okay. All right. I'll keep that in mind. McDonald's is not food. Okay, let's see. What else is out there? Okay. Yeah, I just want to take a look at the comments there. Let's see. Okay. Okay. All right. So we'll move on. We'll move on to our topic of the day, and that is going to be, of course, 9/11. Your experience. What were you doing that day? Where were you? Um, how things have changed a bit since then, and then we're going to take a look at El Salvador making Bitcoin a legal tender. So again, it won't be a too in-depth look. So maybe no bus ride today, but we'll at least take a flyby and take a look at these things. So we'll start off with 9/11. Let's go back in time a little bit.
Just before 10 a.m., a call comes through from the vice president.
I could hear a noise on the phone. I looked around, and I could see that the desk in front of me was shaking. I didn't know what that was. People going under the desk. I heard the chief of the department yell, "The tower has come down. The tower has come down."
Okay, let me move forward. I think a lot of us we've had our fill from those clips this weekend. So where were you? Where were you when the buildings fell? What were your first thoughts? What were your emotions? And what are your thoughts on 20 years later? And for myself, I was asleep. It was about 3 in the morning, I believe, because Hawaii time we're 6 hours behind New York time, and my wife calls me. She was my girlfriend at the time, and she was in the Philippines, and she tells me, hey, you're under attack. And for me, I'm sleeping, right? It's like 3 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, whatever it was. And she calls and says, hey, you're under attack. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Okay, sure. All right, thanks for letting me know. Okay. And I hang up the phone and I go back to sleep, wake up, haven't turned on any television, no news, no radio, no nothing. Took a shower, everything washed up, went to work. I'm listening to a CD, so I'm still not listening to the radio. I don't know what's going on yet. And then I get to Marine base back in Hawaii, and this line that is just a line, and a huge line trying to get in the base. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here now? So I turn on the radio, and then that was the first I heard of it. So um, I couldn't make sense of it all, and then turned around and went back home, and then I finally saw it on television, and couldn't believe it. Just couldn't believe it. That was my experience. You feel a bit of rage, a little bit of anger. You're trying to understand it. You're trying to make sense of it, and whatever the media told you, you absolutely took in, and it amplified. Because of that event, it just amplified in you, and yeah, you felt like all right, we got to go ahead and do something. That was my experience with it. It's kind of late to the party. Like I said, I didn't know what was going on for a long time to actually flipped on the radio. But what was your experiences like? When you remember where you were? Let's see, babysitting. Mark, the Silver Shark. You were babysitting your daughter, 6 months old. Wow, I bet that must have been an experience watching that and holding your daughter, your infant daughter, in your hands and wondering about her future. That must have been quite an experience there. Um, let's see. Lillian Winston, I remember still being in college when I saw that on live television on strategy. And wasn't it? I mean, I don't want to use the word surreal, but I mean, wasn't it? You're trying to make sense of it all, right? I mean, your five senses, or well, at least your sense of vision at the time, and trying to understand it, very difficult to do. No matter how many times you watch it over and over and over, you're watching it and this doesn't make sense. How can this be? How can this happen? And then, you know, I mean, I'll just say it: the way the buildings fell, and then the building not even hit by a plane goes down as well. And it was just sensory overload. Difficult to difficult to make sense of. Rusty Benhammer, you would have been at high school. All right, I'm not gonna ask you where you were. So I guess you were already cutting classes or something back then. No, you would have been in high school. All right, that was a good one. Um, let's see what else is out there. Harold Harold B. Building 7 was Wonder Woman's invisible plane. All right. Yeah, a lot of people have different ideas or different thoughts as to what happened there. And then President Bush at that time came on television, and this is what he had to say.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices. Secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shatter steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world, and no one will keep that light from shining.
Okay, a very somber day indeed. In 20 years, the U.S. has gone from a country united to a country absolutely divided, to a country that, I mean, in keeping things real here, a country that might no longer exist as we know it. Sad to say, but we gotta be truthful with ourselves. And this is why I look forward to talking to Dr. Ron Paul on these things and more. So again, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. So something else that may not exist, well, it kind of doesn't exist already, is money. Money as we know and even knew it. And part of this is where we see El Salvador making the move to use Bitcoin as legal tender. And with the talk of central bank digital currencies, a lot of people wondered what would the future of Bitcoin be? Although more importantly than the future of what cryptocurrency would be, what led El Salvador to make this move? Why do it? Did El Salvadorians have a say? What's the good and the bad of it? And keep in mind, they did not make the move where the only currency is Bitcoin. They still use US dollars and other things, but it's just that they've added it to being a legal tender. All right. So what can we learn from it? Because if there is anything we have learned so far, is that the world is changing, and in that, as I always say, we're going to need options. We're going to need options. Stay ahead, because we have to stay ahead. We have to have a way out, sort of a kind of like an exit, but a safety. We have to have a safety. So why did El Salvador go Bitcoin? So let's take a look at the story that we saw.
Bitcoin hitting its highest levels since May, ahead of El Salvador's official adoption of Bitcoin as legal currency. That starts today. The move makes it the first country in the world to officially put Bitcoin on its balance sheet and hold it in reserves. Here to break down this test case, essentially. With us is CNBC's Mackenzie Sigalos. Mackenzie, great to have you on. I know you've been doing a lot of reporting around this. But the fact that we did see Bitcoin jump ahead of this and now it's under a little bit of pressure today, I mean, this has in many ways been kind of the bull case longer term around Bitcoin, the fact that you could actually use it to transact for everyday items, right?
Right. And I think that that's one of the major things that people are looking for today on the ground in El Salvador. You know, citizens can now, from today, technically use Bitcoin to buy virtually anything. So we're talking a cup of coffee, a haircut. They can also pay their taxes in Bitcoin. And that's why you did see this price run up in the last few weeks. Like Bitcoin's price was touching highs that it hadn't seen since May. And then yesterday, the government announced that it was adding almost $21 million worth of Bitcoin to its balance sheet. And that's where you saw this huge bump up in the price. And yes, it has come off of those highs, but I think people are watching to see how rollout goes. And we're starting to see that. You know, from midnight, I was on the phone with people who were on the ground in San Salvador, and they were actively downloading the wallet that the government has offered to all citizens. So it's been really interesting to see it all happen in real time.
Okay, two of you guys hit it on the head there. I mean, Rusty Benthammer test case. I love how they use their lingo. It is a test case. It hasn't been done before. It is a test case. So that is true. And good humor, man. It's serious what you said here. First rule of money is stability. Stability. Absolutely correct there. So it's interesting how CNBC looked at it. Huge bump up in price. Huge bump up in price. Is that what money is? Is that what money is? Something that can be trusted and volatile at the same time. Is that what money is? Holding it as a national reserve. And what about things like when there is a fork? We've seen that before with Bitcoin, right? What do? You're holding Bitcoin as your reserve, and then there's going to be a fork. What are you going to do? Bitcoin is decentralized. People like that. But at the same time, the other edge of the two sides of this sword in particular is that money is controlled by who? You know, some say controlled by people. They say Bitcoin is money for the people, but yet others say whales which can move the Bitcoin price. They can buy, they can sell, they can move the Bitcoin price. So also downloading the wallet the government provided. Okay, downloading that wallet the government provided. Can things go wrong with this? Is there a possibility something could go wrong with this, the government wallet? I mean, would this then mean that government controls your wallet, which is what Lynette Zhang was talking about with central bank digital currencies, and therefore you, okay? Therefore you. All this from money that was supposed to give freedom. That's what people liked about it, right? You can't print it like the Fed and things like that. So people like that freedom aspect of it there. Do you think a government will let you move from their wallet to your own private wallet, no strings attached? I mean, these are some things you got to look at. So let's say you're in El Salvador, these things come up and you're trying it, okay? But when it comes to central bank digital currencies, and with the Fed, which, where it's supposedly going to have a Fed wallet, I mean, you think they're going to let you move that to a private wallet? I mean, maybe not. Who knows? But it's nobody knows the future. Nobody knows the future. But here's another clip from CNBC and Bitcoin.
What? Only about a third of Salvadorans actually use the internet.
Right. And that stat has been called into question just because it's referring more to these wired lines, your fiber optics, but almost everybody has a cell phone in hand, and that's really the level of connectivity that you need to be a part of this Bitcoin economy. And in terms of how successful the rollout has been so far, was this a flip that switched at midnight? No, it wasn't. But, people were actively communicating with one another. The president was helping to troubleshoot IT issues. And so at around 2 a.m., that's when we first saw the wallet go live. And it's something called the Chivo wallet. wallet, which is Salvadoran slang for cool. And so the government is really pushing people to become a part of this economy. And the way that they're doing that is by saying that everyone who signs up for this wallet gets $30. And I mean, that's no small sum in a country where, you know, the average minimum wage is $365. And so from 2 a.m., it hasn't been a totally smooth rollout, but we have seen successful downloads. We have seen people receiving that $30 into their wallet.
Mackenzie, from people who are, you know, intently watching this from the kind of Bitcoin camp, let's say, the people who really believe in it, what would represent success, either in terms of volume of transactions or, you know, just the adoption or displacement of other types of payments? What are our benchmark indicators?
I mean, you said a few of them there. I mean, I think mainstream adoption. I think that one side of this, you know, going beyond using Bitcoin as a currency, as a form of, you know, exchanging value, people see it as a way to help Salvadorans save money. And, you know, it's a largely unbanked population. And so this gives them a way to build this culture around saving money.
Okay, a culture around saving money. So it's a way to get everyone banked. It is a way to get everyone banked and market it as being cool. All right. So you get this Shiva wallet. Hey, you're cool, right? It means cool. So now this goes back to the research, and I have to throw this in there as well because it goes back to the research I did with smart banknotes and how in 2010, 2011, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they were looking for a way to transition from physical notes we hold to crypto like Bitcoin, something we don't physically hold. Now, this isn't conspiracy stuff. This is true. So we're just kind of laying out a story here. So two things. The idea back then was already to transition people to crypto. Again, back 2010, 2011. So first, our question has to be, how did the foundation know crypto was going to be money? How did the foundation know that? And let me see here. Okay, so where am I? So how did the foundation know it was going to be money? The second, sorry about that. Second, the idea back then was already to get everyone, including the poor, to be banked in the name of savings. Okay, banked in. I think this is a word we're going to hear more of, banked in. So this isn't anything new. This was already in motion back in 2010, 2011 when Bitcoin was still in diapers. Okay, Bitcoin was still in diapers, but they already saw, hey, we're going to need a bridge from physical notes to crypto, non-physical notes, and we're going to need a bridge. Maybe we'll call it smart banknotes. So they were already looking into this. So moving forward, as soon as El Salvador went in on Bitcoin, make it legal tender, this was what we saw. We saw that cryptocurrency prices tumble and exchange trading falters as snags crop up. So the price of cryptocurrencies plunged and crypto trading was delayed on Tuesday, a day in which El Salvador ran into snags as the first country to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. Shares of blockchain-related firms also fell as crypto stocks were hit by trading platform outages, but the major focus was on El Salvador, where the government had to temporarily unplug a digital wallet to cope with demand. So, I mean, but what do El Salvadorians think? Did they even want this? You know, did they have a choice? And I ask this because we need to put this into a little bit of a bigger context here. Okay, where in the context of central bank digital currencies, do we want this? Do we have a choice? But what was interesting with that article was they basically unplugged the digital wallet to cope with demand. They have the power to unplug your wallet. So again, you know, that is maybe something people may not be too comfortable with, but they're trying it out. They are trying it out. So let's move forward and watch another clip here.
Using Bitcoin to buy clothes, snacks, even the daily newspaper, instead of US dollars is now an option to the people in El Salvador, as the country becomes the first in the world to adopt the volatile crypto as its national currency. It's a big test for Bitcoin in the real world and for Salvadorans. To get them started, the government is giving $30 to people who sign up to an e-wallet called Chivo, which allows for the automatic conversion of dollars to Bitcoin and vice versa. On day one, a number of technical issues were reported in the country with the app. While some businesses welcome this crypto experiment, 80% of Salvadorans have little or no confidence in Bitcoin, and some have opposed the move.
One big reason is because people don't want their wages to be denominated in Bitcoin. It's related to the sharp fluctuations in value that Bitcoin has. Also, a lot of people think that El Salvador is not really prepared for this type of adoption. A lot of people don't have smartphones, and if they do, they don't have data plans.
Okay, so if people are worried about getting paid in Bitcoin, and I think we'd all be in agreement there because of the way it fluctuates, the volatility. And of course, their data plans if the economy will be wrecked. They're worried about the economy if it will be wrecked. So, how do you create adoption? Because adoption is a big thing, right? More people who adopt it, more people who understand, and maybe you can start to right the wrongs, get back on track, and really make it something viable. So, just trying to be fair here, right? So, how do you create adoption? You start in a small place such as Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador. So let's take a look at Bitcoin Beach and how they started to get some adoption there.
The face of Bitcoin Beach is an American surfer who's lived in El Salvador for years. When the anonymous donor came calling in September 2019, he says he saw it as an opportunity to create new jobs, keep kids out of gangs. Now, it's bigger than he could have imagined.
So you have this idea, we're going to create a Bitcoin economy. Step one. Step two is, how do you make that into reality? What were some of your early hurdles, challenges as you're sort of turning this into, harebrained scheme into something that works in practice?
For us to really make this happen, we had to introduce Bitcoin in the community and to get people to really start think, what is money? And why do they accept the dollar in their store? And what is the dollar doing over time? And we've shown, here's this community in El Salvador, people, a lot of them living in shacks with dirt floor and 10 walls, and now they're all transacting on their smartphones. They're zipping around payments, much easier than people in the first world are. And so it's, I think, proven that Bitcoin really is the money of the poor, of the people on the lowest level of the economic ladder, and can really transform their lives.
How does it feel to be sort of the white guy who comes into this community and says, hey, we're going to set up this new economy and sort of get involved with the finances of this small Salvadoran beach town? What's that been like for you?
Yeah, I've always very much wanted to stay behind the scenes because, like you said, I'm just an old white guy surfer that's hanging out in the community. And so we really have been focused on empowering just the local talent. And, they're the ones that are driving this forward. They're the ones that have taken this to the next level into something that's transformed the entire country, and I think will transform the world.
In some ways, the contrast between the way Bitcoin is currently exists in the United States and the way it's being used in El Salvador are really striking. What's it been like for you to see the sort of these two worlds of the United States Bitcoin and the El Salvador Bitcoin?
The El Salvador version of Bitcoin was what everybody always dreamed would be possible. This was what the potential everybody always talked about there being, that Bitcoin would be the money of the poor, that it would free people from the traditional banking system, that people that had been excluded financially would finally have a voice. And we're really seeing that happen.
Okay, so interesting where you said Bitcoin is the money of poor people. That kind of stuck with me. I mean, I found that pretty interesting. It's just that statement. What's your take on that statement? Bitcoin is the money for poor people. I mean, why poor people? So again, in my mind, it goes back to 2010 when the goal was set to get everyone banked. Okay, get everyone banked in. Now, nonetheless, here's how it works in Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador. And I'm watching the comments. Keep the comments going. I think you guys have a good debate going, the pros and cons of it all. So keep it going. And we'll always try to be fair here and see two sides to every coin, even if it's a coin we can't see, like a Bitcoin. Anyway, another clip from Bitcoin Beach.
In late 2019, an anonymous American donated about 12 Bitcoins worth at least 6 figures to create a new crypto economy. The idea was for everyone in this town to use Bitcoins for all their purchases. The founders of the Bitcoin Beach organization created a Bitcoin wallet, then started convincing people to use it.
Is this a surf team bus? Or
They hired locals like this guy, Roman Martinez, and partnered with Strike, an app like Venmo that lets people send each other money.
So to pay with Bitcoin, I got to get my phone out. So I have the Bitcoin Beach wallet.
Okay.
And I have Strike. But I have no money in either of them.
Let's go to receive.
Uh-huh. So you sent me $10 in Bitcoin. Yeah. Okay, so now I can send it to her by scanning her QR code.
Yeah.
Which is here. Okay. That's it.
Cold brew with Bitcoin, brother.
Cheers.
Welcome to Bitcoin Beach.
President Bukele's Bitcoin announcement was made in a Zoom call to the CEO of Strike, a 20-something Bitcoin entrepreneur in the US. Strike and the Bitcoin Beach wallet are essentially used interchangeably in El Zonte, but Strike is available nationally, and the company seems to be trying to tap into El Salvador's $4.5 billion a year remittance market. The app gives users options to send either Bitcoin or dollars to each other. When I signed up, the app prompted me to deposit money with a debit card or bank account. Sending Bitcoin was less user-friendly than dollars. So when folks in El Zonte pull out their phones to make digital payments, they aren't necessarily using Bitcoin. And whether it's the Strike app or the Bitcoin Beach wallet, there are still kinks in the system.
¿Y tú prefieres recibir su pago en Bitcoin o efectivo?
Bitcoin me sirve como un ahorro,
Uh-huh.
Pero hay veces que prefiero así el efectivo.
Sí. ¿Has perdido dinero porque el precio de Bitcoin bajó mucho?
Sí, he perdido bastante.
¿Cuánto?
Quizás como unos $20.
Okay. ¿Yo puedo pagar ahora con Bitcoin o con efectivo? Su preferencia. ¿Qué?
Pagué con Bitcoin, sí, con efectivo, ahí es su decisión.
¿Y puedo usar Strike también o no? Solo Bitcoin Wallet.
Ahorita tengo un pequeño problema con Strike, pero estoy por solucionarlo porque como que no me recibió mi correo electrónico.
Entonces ahora tengo dinero en Strike, pero no en mi Bitcoin Wallet, entonces voy a pagar con efectivo.
No, puedes pasar también, bueno, según a mí me dijeron los chicos que de Bitcoin se puede pasar el Strike, pero no sé.
The Bitcoin hub in El Zonte is the ATM, and it's not just used by the locals. This guy drives for 2 hours to convert his Bitcoin to cash.
Have there been times when you came and it didn't work or it was closed?
Sí, la última vez parece que no había efectivo.
Uh-huh. What did you do in that situation?
Me fui sin nada. Sí, no saqué nada. Eso pasó.
What's the biggest problem with Bitcoin right now?
La gente no cree, ¿verdad? Con tanto que ha pasado, cosas malas, cosas buenas. La gente lo más malo que ve es que piensa que, ahí como usted acaba de decir, de que posiblemente la moneda se vaya y se vaya abajo, ¿verdad? Y se quede uno sin nada. ¿Qué es lo que tiene que ser uno? Optimista, pues, ¿verdad? Para mantenerse.
Optimista con efectivo en mano.
Sí, vaya, imagina que aquí se ha hecho realidad lo que, lo que apostamos.
Bueno.
All right. So in the remittance market, it will be affected, and at times, there were no cash in the ATMs, and that means if Bitcoin, let's say, should tumble and your salary now can't put food on your table, you cannot seek the safety of USD because you won't be able to get any cash should banks decide to do, let's say, what they are doing even in Lebanon. And in Lebanon, getting access to US dollars is not as easy as it once was. And again, it's because, things like the ATM, if you want to cash out, or exchange Bitcoin for dollars, sometimes there may not be dollars there. Or how does dollars get there? Well, the banks, they put it in there directly or indirectly. Person owning the Bitcoin ATM, perhaps, he also gets his dollars from the banks. I mean, of course he does. He goes ahead and loads it up. But if he can't get even dollars from the bank, what happens then? And this was something that we saw in Lebanon, or we are seeing happening in Lebanon. So I want to go back to remittance because it is a big part of the economy.
Day 3 of El Salvador adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, and you've been looking into the impact on money transfer companies.
Right. So the government's new Bitcoin wallet allows for international, zero-fee, virtually instantaneous transactions. And this is a game changer for a country where 70% of the population depends on money sent home from abroad in order to get by. Last year, the country's diaspora collectively sent nearly $6 billion back to El Salvador. And a chunk of that money, of course, went to the transfer companies like Western Union that are facilitating those transactions. Now, the president of El Salvador says that the people are paying $400 million a year in commissions for remittances. And the country's new Bitcoin wallet makes that go away. There are no more international transfer fees if people operate within this new Bitcoin wallet that's been rolled out by the government. Back to you.
Mackenzie, big takeaway, and you were talking about this in El Salvador as really poverty alleviation, whether Bitcoin as legal tender goes some way in alleviating that. Thank you for that.
Okay, so again, a big part of El Salvador's economy is remittance. Again, people go and work overseas, they send money back home. It's income for their families back home. And this will help locals since there will be less fees. Okay, but again, notice it is attached to a government's wallet currently. That could change, but we'll see. And so what do you guys think? I do see the comments going on. I mean, it's a good debate. It's always a good debate. But, I think in the end, we always have to have options. And I do think Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, they are an option we do have to look at. More importantly, we have to try and understand. We have to understand all of the various types of options. Okay, so, I'm asking this because when we compare this to Lebanon, and, we had a live stream on Lebanon the other week. Lebanon also depends on remittance, as I said, and we see what's happening there where dollars from abroad goes into the banks, and then the banks make it difficult for you to get dollars, kind of almost forcing you to use the local currency. And, when the local currency starts to get in trouble, starts devaluing or inflating, it can be a pain for a lot of people there. Another thing with Lebanon, they raised rates to attract dollars from overseas, and they were looking to get foreign investors and bring in dollars from abroad. So curious to see how El Salvador, how are they doing it? Are they making Bitcoin attractive to foreign investors? So let's take a look at this article here. Foreign investors are exempt from tax on Bitcoin profits. So yes, they are making it attractive. El Salvador will exempt foreign investors from taxes on profits on Bitcoin speculation in the country, a government advisor said Friday after it became the first to recognize the cryptocurrency's legal tender. This paragraph right here is odd. It is very odd because on one hand, you're saying profits on Bitcoin speculation, and then you're calling it legal tender. So, I mean, again, money has to be stable. It has to be stable. If a person has assets in Bitcoin and makes high profits, there will be no tax. So this is done obviously to encourage foreign investment. Javier Argueta, legal advisor to President Nayib Bukele, told AFP, the foreign press, there will be no taxes to pay on either the capital increase or the income. El Salvador introduced Bitcoin as legal tender last week alongside the dollar, which has been the official currency for 20 years.
President Bukele is going all in on cryptocurrency, even suggesting the country could use the energy from volcanoes to mine Bitcoin. Skeptics worry it's all just a big distraction from corruption in his autocratic government. We spoke to Bukele's Minister of Tourism about what's happening in the area around El Zonte.
Así que estamos trabajando de la mano junto con el presidente Bukele. El presidente Bukele nos está dirigiendo en este gran proyecto que se llama Surf City, que Surf City es más que un lugar, es un circuito de playas.
I see Bitcoin everywhere, on the surfboards, on the shirts. What do you think about Bitcoin coming to El Salvador?
El mundo cambió, yo también tengo que cambiar. Y definitivamente me impresionó y me sorprendió cuando voy al Zonte, a Playa El Zonte, y veo que puedo comprar una paleta o una pupusa o una charamusca, todos esos son platos típicos de aquí, a través de Bitcoin. Definitivamente la innovación y la digitalización que podemos tener en toda esta parte económica para las poblaciones más necesitadas es vital.
Yesterday, you said that you use your phone to pay your light bill and your electric bill in Bitcoin. Can you show me how it works? It's just, boom, instant in your phone.
Sí.
All right. So let's make sure the government and corporate gets their money on time. But in fairness, it does save him a trip, an hour-long trip on a bus, having to go there, here, having to go there. So there is some convenience. There are some pluses to it. But what do you think so far? Because this is just a small sample of what things will look like. And with central bank digital currencies on the way and a Fed wallet in the works, this this is our future. What we are seeing there, this is our future. But what are we supposed to make of this? I mean, the poorer countries use, say, Bitcoin. I mean, as more than one person has said, they will use Bitcoin. So that gets them banked in. It's a way to get everyone banked in. Wealthy countries use a central bank digital currency. Is this what we're looking at? Or does it really actually matter? Because either way, both lend an avenue to, I mean, let's be real here, to complete control. And this is why we need options. Whether it's a Fed wallet with a central bank digital currency or a government wallet in El Salvador. I mean, we uh, it, it's something we need to think about. Something we surely need to think about. And here's one reason why we need options. Like September 11th, we cannot forget this. Cannot forget this. Back in 2014, new G20 rules Cyprus style bail ins to hit depositors and pensions. Okay, so on the week of November 16th, the G20 leaders whisked into Brisbane, Australia, posed for their photo ops, approved some proposals, made a show of roundly disapproving of Russian President Vladimir Putin, and whisked out again. It was all so fast that they may not have known what they were endorsing when they rubber stamped the Financial Stability Board's adequacy of loss absorbing capacity of global systemically important banks in resolution, which completely changes the rule or the rules of banking the day money died. In any case, it may have been the day deposits died as money. Unlike coins and paper bills, which cannot be written down or given a haircut, says Napier, deposits are now just part of commercial banks' capital structure. That means they can be bailed in or confiscated to save the mega banks from derivatives bets gone wrong. That's the concerning part. When we hear words like getting everyone banked in, we still can't forget about the bail ins, which, again, this isn't conspiracy stuff. This really happened. G20 went ahead and approved it. So take it with a grain of salt. But we saw in the article how Bitcoin transactions would be halted temporarily if its value were ever to collapse in order to minimize the impact of extreme currency fluctuation. So tell me, help me out here. How Tell me all how the more being that bail-ins are authorized by the G20, how they would be able to do this to be done more cleanly, more effectively, more quickly if you only had, let's say, digital cash and we're all banked in. So I mean, again, it's a bit of reach, but still, it's something that we need to think about when we hear this word banked in. So the financial 9/11, it's still yet to come. I mean, maybe the first plane has struck us with what we're seeing today, but that second plane, it's still coming, and it will be something that financially may collapse us all unless we have options. It's all about options, and again, options such as having cash, having gold, having silver, having junk silver, having some crypto, even having some gold backed tokens. So all of these are all options, and we should really be taking a look at these options. So that'll end the topic of the day. And I'll be moving over to commentary, but let's just take a look at a few things you folks have said. I know you had a good debate going on with your with Bitcoin, yes, no, things like that. Um, okay, so let's see. Yeah, thanks. I mean, some of these things, it's not easy to say, but it is true. Nonetheless, it is true, and especially when you hear words like banked in. Everyone needs to be banked in. They want everyone to be banked in. This is why you need options. You need options outside outside of the current financial system. Okay, so it's not easy. Nick Nasty, please stop calling it junk silver. All right, what do you prefer we call it? We'll try not to call it junk silver anymore. Junk silver referring to 90% silver coins. 1964, and earlier, a lot of the coins in the U.S. were actually had 90% silver. And it's not just the U.S. A lot of countries have had coins that were 90% silver, 92.5% silver, some 70% silver. Now we see a lot 40% silver. So okay, what do we call it then? What should we call it? Uh, yeah, from Vincent here, gold backed at the end of the day is just leveraging technology to give convenience, and this is true. This is something we also have to understand. I mean, we hear gold backed tokens and we think, okay, you just kind of wash it out. But the truth is, there is actually gold. There's actually gold there that actually gets, let's just call it tokenized. And what happens is the trade off in some ways is your gold then becomes mobile. You can either transfer to someone else for payment, or if you leave from one country to another country, some gold backed tokens like cash gold backed token, because they are in different parts of the world. If you left the US and say you came to Singapore, you could actually redeem that gold in Singapore. So it's not like you have to carry the gold with you. So gold backed tokens, I mean, take a look at it. If you want, take a look at Cash, CACHE, gold backed token. I do have a micro share in Cash gold backed token, and it's because I've seen how it developed. I know the gold is actually there, and I know what can be done with that token. So don't necessarily cross it off. Again, we are definitely going to need options. Okay, let's see what else is out there. Mike Hawk will never take Bitcoin, but gold and silver, yes. Okay, your choice. Fair enough. Fair enough, your choice. And that's what it's about. You got to do what you're comfortable with, what you trust. Okay, you have to be confident in what you are planning to do. So let's go to commentary already. Wrap it up here. Whether Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse smart banknotes that magically were known back in 2010 to become a bridge between physical currency to a non-physical currency when Bitcoin was still in diapers, are moving over into central bank digital currencies and not having a say, as the gentleman pointed out in that El Salvador clip. What you want to be money, which can allow privacy, we are going to need options. And that's what this is about, options. Alternative assets, gold, silver, real estate, even crypto, and now NFTs are things we might not want to consider, but we are going to have to. We have to consider it and have to learn. That's the hard part. That's the hard part, self-reflecting, and as much as you may not like something, try to learn about it. Try to learn about it, how each can be used in the future, and that, to make no mistake, is being planned for us. Okay, I've said this before. Politicians are old. They're all getting old. You've heard me say this before, and in many cases, they are getting a bit corrupt and on the way out. And that's the key. They are on the way out. They aren't going to probably not care about the mess that they're leaving behind. But young people are going to rule. They're going to come in government offices and clean up the mess, our mess perhaps, and they look to do it digitally. Okay, and this is something, again, you may not like, you may not agree with it, but these are the people that are going to take the reins and start to rule, and these are the things that they like, and of course push they will push for. So start learning about crypto, gold backed tokens, NFTs, because this is where we are going. Like it or not, this is where we are going. And hold physical assets like gold and silver. They are stores of wealth. Should things go wrong, they can transfer your wealth. And love it or hate it, technology is allowing them to be transferable, talking about things like gold backed tokens to move anywhere in the world, should you choose to stay or move anywhere in the world. And that'll end the commentary section. That'll wrap up pretty much the show. So let me just take a look at a few comments here. I didn't expect it to go on this long. Sorry about that. Okay, Patrick Bateman. Yeah, I appreciate that. Again, it is options. I may not agree with everything, but I have to understand that there are things out there that I don't understand, and you can't just not like something because you don't understand it. So we need to take the time and look at things if we can, or we should. All right, so let's see. Rusty Van Hammer, I like the idea of a gold backed token, but we need to have confidence in the exchange. I tell you what, Rusty, that is true. Um, that is true. But gold back tokens, I tell you, go ahead and take a look at Cash Gold, CACHE dot gold. Like I say, I do have a micro share in it, and I know all the gold is there. I know it's there. I know physical gold really backs every token. I know the guys that did the project, created the product, and I wouldn't be anywhere else to tell you the truth. I absolutely trust that token, CGT Cash Gold token. Um, okay, let me put Vincent's comment up here. Good Humor Man did have a point about the state of lopsided power in government and elites today. No thanks. Absolutely, to a fiat currency system, there are a plethora of ways they can squeeze things in their favor. Absolutely, good point from Vincent. And Vincent, I'll let you have the last say. So with that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for being here. Hope your weekend went well. Have a great week ahead. And as I always say, saddle up for what's coming ahead. Silver up as well. Be a blessing, not a burden. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Take care.